Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, April 14th, and you're tuned to THHoopers, Del Curry's favorite basketball podcast. I'm here with George. Almost said Josh. We're not here with Josh. We're here with George Martin over here.
What's up, everyone?
Yeah, just the two of us here. You know, a little quick pod, fill you guys in. A little banter. It'll be a good time. We got to recap last days of ball, Georgia's halftime, and to end it off, we're going to compare some current day contenders with some contenders of the past. More on that later. Remember, if you like what you hear, make sure to follow our socials, Insta, Twitter, all at THHoopers. Drop a comment anywhere with shout out for giving us support. We got to do our due diligence. We got Rad Toasty, Amir Ramadan, asking us who is the cutest NBA player. So, George, I need your opinion.
Got to be Kelly Oubre, right? That's everyone's.
I mean, can you give me a sleeper? Come on, give me
a sleeper. Okay, LaMelo Ball.
LaMelo Ball. You always have liked them young, and then also Frankie, Frankie the Ace. Again, asking to be on the podcast. Frankie, if you comment, George Martin's hairline, we'll think about having you on the podcast because that means you're a loyal listener. All right, you comment that, Frankie. All right, then we might have you on us for a segment. Who knows? Life's short. But yeah, those were also Cole Wakeham told us to promote on Emperor Records.
And then liked his own comment.
So
love you, Cole.
Some good amount of interaction on this last post.
We're creeping a little bit.
It was only bots the past few posts, but also shout out Nick Shit only 24K followers liked every post so far. So good shout out you guys.
Please shout us out.
George is clout chasing. All right. Enough of it. Monday, April 12th. Our due diligence. Then I'm gonna tell George to break some stuff down for us. So Sixers beat the Mavs 113-95. Was gonna be a good game. No Porzingis. Spurs beat the Magic 120-97. Was never gonna be a good game. Grizzlies beat the Bulls 101-90, and Suns beat the Rockets 126-120. A little closer than you might expect. So we're not gonna talk about this one. I didn't tell George about. I was going to bring this up. The Knicks beat the Lakers 111-96. I know George had a front row seat in this one because he watches every Laker game in full.
Oh, I know where it's going.
After being left off George's top 10 big men list, Julius Randles dropped 34 and 10 against a top 3 defense and shot very efficiently. So a little win-lose here. Win, Julius Randles listens to the podcast. Lose, you were dead wrong here. Do you want to change your answer or are you going to ride?
Yeah, I'm going to change my answer. He's definitely no less than top 7. So
how he jumped 4 spots.
Josh is gonna get a load of that one. I am pushing the Julius Randle All NBA agenda from now on. So
what?
He can make a third team. He can make a third team.
He can, but just admit you forgot to put him on. Just admit you forgot about Julius Randle because you argued last podcast that he didn't belong there. Can you just admit you forgot about him?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a forgetful brain, so.
Guys, because you don't write any notes. It's all stored up here. But yeah, not a very, fun game to watch. Knicks beat the hell out of them. So, but good for the Knicks. They that want to stay in that kind of playing spot. Moving on to the first one we're going to really talk about here. My locator was the Pelicans and Kings. 2 teams fighting to catch the Warriors for the last spot in the play-in. And the Pelicans got a 117-110 W. Zion and B.I. combined for 64 on 61% shooting in a game where they were missing Zoe. On the other side, poor De'Aaron Fox had 43 in the L, shooting 50%. He's so good. Firstly, please fire Luke Walton. Secondly, what did you see from this game?
Not a lot of defense played. I mean, the score wasn't completely offensive initiated, but yeah. Zion and B.I. don't like to play a lot of defense, but on the other end, they're killing defenses, so I guess it kind of just evens out. The rotations were a little bit weird for the Pelicans. They started Wes Iwundu this game. They were starting Marshall, who was doing pretty good for him. But yeah, Ingram, very efficient game. This is basically the end of the road for the Kings. I believe they're on a 7-game losing streak now, so I don't think they have enough to get into that last spot, especially since New Orleans is only a game out or a game and a half out of that 10 seed, and the Warriors are still winning. And I don't see the Spurs falling out enough, and then the Kings also leapfrogging into these other teams. So we might have to start the get De'Aaron Fox out of Sacramento. I know he's tied to a long contract, but anytime there's a guy struggling in Sacramento, I want to get him out of there. But I actually think if they fire Luke, I like their roster enough for next season. I think they have a lot of young talent, and they've seemed to draft decently well. So a change of a coach and a culture change could help them.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox really started a trend of drafting pretty well. They know the De'Aaron pick, and then they got a decent haul for Boogie before that. And then Tyrese this year, probably, top 3, top 5 rookie voting. He's not going to win it, but he's playing very, very good. I'll start with this. He said a lot of defense played. Kings shoot 43% from the field, which isn't great. Pelicans shoot 54%. But Pelicans only make 6 threes, which I watched this game. There wasn't a lot of defense played. They just weren't hitting their shots on either side. Like, it was a lot of open threes, clank. So, like you said, not a defense played, but no team limit the other one pay. That's why the score was kind of as low as it is.
Yeah.
And then, from a play-in spot standpoint, I'm holding strong on the 12 seed Wizards getting into the play-in spot. I think they're going to take the Bulls. I really do. But yeah, I've been on this Sacramento train, and I'm getting off. I'm upset.
They're 4 games out.
Yeah, they're 4 games out. Pelicans now creeping. They're 1 game back from the Warriors. I have the Warriors getting out, but it's a coin toss at this point, especially if the Pelicans continue to kind of roll like this. They're 6-4 in the last 10. But yeah, Sacramento, not even one of their classic 6-game win streaks to probably get them back on track here.
I don't see that. At this point in the season, I don't think they could.
This is me officially withdrawing my application from the Sacktown bandwagon.
I know we've said all season they just up and down where losing streak, win streak. I don't think they even get a big win streak to even bolster them up enough.
I'll be back next season when Luke Walton isn't. But because I'm a big De'Aaron Fox guy, I think they got a lot of talent in the starting lineup. Just got lost to that bench. But yeah, anything else you saw from this game?
Nope.
Moving on then, speaking of the 12 seed Wizards, they linked up with the Jazz and barely being able to wrestle the Wizards to an upset, 125-121. Beal at 34, and Russ once again had an impressive triple-double, also getting contributions from big man Daniel Gafford, who I think we both agree has a future in this league and with the Bulls. Utah's missing Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson, so I really don't want to get too much Jazz slander. Donnie Mitchell had 42 in the loss. What'd you take away from this game?
Before I get into the deep dive analysis of this game, you want to know what's kind of funny in a trend? Every time Russ drops a triple-double in a win against like a top contending team, Josh isn't on the pod in the same night for us to talk about it. I don't know if he's intentionally ducking.
He's scheduling his double shifts whenever Russ has a triple-double. He's like, I'll take that shift, yeah.
He's like, oh, Russ triple-double and beating a elite contending team, like when he did it against the Lakers. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to be extra closing shift tonight at the Shack. But I mean, Donnie Mitchell had what, like 42, I believe? Let me see.
42, yeah. 42.
So, yeah, he did enough. And the biggest thing here is I just want to see how they shot from 3. They came out firing 42 points, and you just kind of thought, they're gonna that's about it. They're just going to run away with it. But in the second, they just kind of fell off. And for the rest of the game, they didn't score many points in each quarter. So let me see what they shot from 3. Well, they shot 41%. So, I mean, I guess it was the defense that was the biggest problem, because allowing Washington to score 125 isn't something you want to do and think you're going to win, especially when you're missing your best bench scorer and your starting point guard. But nothing to take away here. They only lost by 4. They weren't fully healthy. It's fine. They got great contributions out of guys like Bogdan and Spida put up his usual monster stat line, but I'm not worried about this one.
Yeah, so a few things here. I do want to go to Spida. He's putting up big numbers recently, huge numbers. My number 1 shooter guard in the league. But are you worried about how inefficient he's been? Because I mean, even in this one, 43%, which is good on 42 points. But I mean, they're asking a lot of him on offense, which is something that I guess we've been asking for an alternative to just the drive and kick 3-point shot. But I don't know if this can last, even though I think he's capable of it. But I don't know if he's like able to put up numbers like this on a consistent basis, being this inefficient.
So yeah, overall I am worried about it, because I've seen a lot of the stat lines where this season he'll be like 6 for 15. But for this game specifically, I'm not, because looking at the guys off the bench, he had to take the amount of shots that he did. And I mean, he shot close to 50%. So it wasn't a horrible efficient game.
Yeah.
But with the volume he took, I was expecting this. His 3-point numbers have actually been the worst. The most concerning thing for me, especially, I know they have marksmen all around there, But 3-level scoring is very important in the playoffs. And if he can't hit consistently, because there's been games he'll go 0 for 9. There's been a trend where he'll be 0 for 1 for, very, very low efficiency. Yeah. And that's where I'm worried the most, because that 3-ball needs to be there in the playoffs if they want to go deep. Obviously, mid-range is nice, but I mean, we've seen what happens with guys like Russ and DeMar, those guys that can't hit efficiently from 3, what happens in the playoffs, even with better supporting casts than what the Jazz have. So right now, no, but leading up to the playoffs, it could be.
Yeah, so the opposite of the game ball goes to Joe Ingles, who they're at least the worst shooting percentage in the starting lineup for them. He went 6 for 16. Mm-hmm. Only player, actually, besides Donovan Mitchell, shoot under 50%. Not a lot of shots going around besides him, Donovan Mitchell, and Bogdanovich. But he's had a few of these games where they asked him to step in for Mike Conley. You just can't do it. And I think for this game, it was allowing Wizards to score 125 points there. And then also for the Washington side, I mean, Alex Len, 3 points, but yeah, Gafford, 15 in 17 minutes. I don't think Gobert was on him a lot because he only played 33 and Gafford was off the bench. But I think the Jazz could definitely use a secondary big man as far as rim protection than just defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert. They
brought in Ersan Ilyasova, which isn't your and he's got
green
a DNP
machine.
CP. Yeah, he fits their white man stretch big and not a lot of rim protection. They did have I believe they did have Tony Bradley at one point. I mean, I know he was on the Sixers this season, but I thought that I liked him. But yeah, they don't really have
they brought in Favors as their main backup big, who's serviceable, but it's not the rim protector that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And then last thing here, what do you make of this Wizards team? Do you think this core has a future? Do you think it has a future this season or next season? Just what do you take from this team? Because there's a lot to go into it.
So I really like Rui. I think he's kind of going to be their X factor in a sense coming up in the next few seasons, because you know what you're going to get from Beal and Russ. Hopefully Beal stays. I don't think he's going to ask out. I thought this was the year if he was going to get moved, he's going to get moved. Denny, I actually did like the pick. He slid to 9, and I thought he could have gone as high as 4 to Chicago. So I really like their core 4 essentially. Mm-hmm. They really got to work on the bench and the centers. Gafford, he could potentially be a starting guy. They are going to get Thomas Robinson back next season, but yeah, that Bertans contract, honestly, that's going to be tearing
4 for
them down.
80, and it just started this year.
That's going to be hard for them to make stuff work, because that core 4 I do like a lot, but rotational wise and everything else, I don't know. And I don't think Scott Brooks is going to be a part of their long-term future plans as well.
You think this is his last season?
I think he's going to get the boot.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, unless Russ is really lobbying for him. But I mean, I don't know if Russ really has a lot of weight in that.
A lot of people thought after that abysmal bubble performance, I know Beal wasn't there, thought he was going to get the boot because they didn't win a game. They slid past Charlotte in the pecking order. So,
yeah. Well, from that game, Golden State rode a 43-22 third-quarter run to beat the Nuggets in prime time, 116-107. Most had to do with Steph Curry's 48 in the first 3 quarters. He ended the game with 53, while also passing Wilt Chamberlain as the all-time Warriors' leading scorer. Great night for Steph, horrible night for the Nuggets. We'll get into the Jamal Murray injury during the halftime, so I want to focus this recap more on the court, what you see from the Warriors side, and then what you see from the Nuggets side, because they had lost this game before Murray went down, for sure.
Definitely, yeah. The game was pretty much decided by the end of the 4th there. Warriors won on, I don't know if you mentioned this, I kind of zoned out, but 43 points in the third quarter.
43-22 run.
That's going to win you the game right there, and that's when Steph was doing his step back threes. I mean, they were putting Campazzo on him. It was kind of like, because I remember in the finals, Freddie V was kind of getting in Drake's head. He was telling he was getting switches off him. He just doesn't like the short, small guards, but in this game, it didn't matter. He said, he said, janitor, I am doing everything and anything on you. But yeah, Aaron Gordon didn't have the best offensive game. I know he's not there to be primarily offensive. Jokic did struggle a lot. He was kind of forcing, in my opinion. I was watching that second half primarily. He was forcing a lot from 3. I didn't like. He went 1 for 5. There was just a lot of times they came down the floor and they needed a bucket, and it was a quick pull and release from him. I don't know if he was trying to just get the shot going or if they were looking for that, but I didn't like seeing that. Warriors side, this is what Steph's going to have to do for them to get in, stay in the play-in. Draymond, very, very aggressive. He came out looking like how he did in 2016 in that finals game, that game 7 where he's just firing on all cylinders.
Just greening, yeah.
7 for 8, 18 points, season high, remarkably enough, 18 points being a season high. That type of performance from him, they need nightly. Like, he's still got his same rebounds, assist numbers, 4 steals, incredible defense from him, but they need him to be, I said, around 12 to 13 points. They can get more than 15. They'll be sitting pretty in a lot of these games. And
then also, Draymond, just stat sheet filler, 18, 7, 7, and 4 steals.
Complete player.
7 for 8. Where do you kind of – so I brought this up last pod, and I thought it was a Jamal Murray issue where when he wasn't playing, Jokic would force that stuff up. But then Murray plays this game. Murray has a decent game, 17. Not a great shooting night, but 17. He played a lot of minutes. And Jokic was still forcing it. Do you think that's going to continue even more now? Or
sadly, yeah, because before the arrival of Murray, Jokic was having to score a lot. I mean, I think he's a career 20-point per game guy, and his numbers were up because he was forced to do a lot on the offensive end. And then when Murray came, it was just, easy flowing offense with the back, or not Murray, I'm sorry. When Gordon came, just back cuts, throwing lobs and cutting, and just really simplified the offense for him. And he kind of just was able to do what he did last postseason and dominate with his passing and when he gets doubled. But now, really going to be on the shoulders of him and MPJ. And I hope he doesn't force because his game isn't best when it comes to that. And you also don't want a guy like MPJ taking 25 because he's really streaky. He's very streaky. So their offense is going to be very interesting to see what happens down the stretch. Because, I mean, off the bench, you don't really have, like the certified 3-point guys. I mean, Monte Morris, PJ Dozier.
You don't have a lot of guys who can get their own shot, which is the problem.
Shot creators, yeah. That's a problem. I mean, they were looking into bringing some people in. I think Troy Daniels, who they had recently, but he's not much of a shot creator. I mean, there's not many people out there. This injury kind of happened like at the worst possible time for them as they were streaking.
Mm-hmm. So 2 more things. One, got to give credit to where it's due. Kevon Looney, 11 boards. Did post a donut, but 11 boards against the Nuggets, which is very crucial. Knows his role. 0 for 3 from – he shot 2 threes for some reason, but Kevon Looney expanded his game, I guess. 11 boards, good for them. They're going to need that center position. Anything they can get from that Wiseman. And then 2, to wrap it up here. So Steph Curry got a record, Wilt Chamberlain record, so congrats on that. Any Wilt Chamberlain scoring record is good. He's now Warriors ultimate leading scorer. He's going to be coming up on a lot of milestones here as he enters the kind of twilight of his career. And by that, I mean, like, he's got 10 years left, but he's coming up on a lot of milestones. So he's 253 threes away from catching ground for number 1. Let's say he hits maybe 50 more this year. It's looking like he's on pace for next year to break the record. Would you agree with that?
I'd maybe give it an extra season because I do think they might be a little bit more ginger on his minutes. He's been playing a lot this season, and I know as you get older, the body doesn't hold up as much. He hasn't really, besides his knee and his ankle issues, he's been relatively healthy, but I'd say 2 seasons.
You say 2 seasons?
Yeah.
I'd bet 1 because I really do think next year his minutes will be less, but he'll also have a lot more free-flowing offense, and the efficiency will come. Because one thing I've been on his ass about is very inefficient from 3 this year, which Steph Curry is still
his efficiency
40%.
His efficiency numbers have been as good as his unanimous season. So,
well, I mean, in the past 2 months, I've been seeing a lot of 4 for 11 from threes and stuff like that. And when we get to actual help next season, he should be going 5 for 8 from 3 because it's coming a lot easier. And he's Steph Curry, of course. But yeah, that was Monday. I'm moving on to Tuesday because we took a lot of time there. Nets beat the Timberwolves 127-97 in that game that was postponed. Clippers beat the Pacers 126-115 without Kawhi Leonard. Lakers beat the Hornies 101-93, and the Jazz beat the Thunder 106-96. Lou Dort 42 points. And
his agent deserves jail time because his contract extension, I believe, was what, 4 years, $4 million.
I think it was 4 years, 32 mil.
No, dude, it's low. It's like criminally low. They are paying pennies for Lou Dort.
Well, you look that up. You look up what his contract is, and I'll brief for this next game. a game where not a lot of key players were playing. The Hawks came out on top of the Raptors 108-103. After missing most of the season, Bogey has been the most consistent scorer for the Hawks over the past few weeks, and he had 23 in this one. He was helped by Clint Capella's 19 and 21. For the Raps, by CP had a great game, scoring 30 and only missing 5 shots, so hallelujah for that. And that's only really positive you take away from this game for the Raps. Give me the contract, and then we'll talk about the game.
5.4 mil over 4 years.
Oh my god! Wow,
that's nice. That's good.
That's an absolute steal. Oh my god,
he's like 21. Okay,
well,
you said
right.
what?
Raptors, Hawks.
Got it. Okay, you want me to talk now? You gave the rundown.
I would like you to talk. Yeah.
Okay, so basically the biggest takeaway from the Hawks in this stretch, I'll get to the game in a second, but Nate McMillan has them playing not only great basketball, winning basketball. They are let me get this, 18-6 in games coached by him, and they've won 7 of their last 8. This is the first time they've been 5 games over 500 in more than 4 full years, so dating back to the Bud era, I'd assume. And yeah,
everyone's to win a regular season. He does.
Everyone's just bought in, and it's really interesting to see how an assistant on that staff turned head coach can get them just playing these great minutes all of a sudden, and it's complete efforts too. Clint Capella has been their second best player this season, and I don't think I'd be saying that on a team with John Collins also there, but yeah, he's been damn good. 19 and 21 here. You can't ask much more for him. And all around, Bogdanovich has been the guy that, it makes sense why the Bucks wanted him. He's been efficient. His defense is pretty good, but yeah, that would have been really nice to see them getting Bogey alongside of who they already had. So, I mean, really, like, narrative-wise, there's not much to take away from this game because Toronto just isn't that impressive. But overall, the Hawks, they're standing alone in the 4th seed. I think they're probably going to end up hosting a playoff series. And I mean, if they play the Celtics in round 1, I might take the Hawks over Boston.
With Clint Capella, sheesh, that'd be hard to watch. But also, unless they get those guys, Hunter and Cam Reddish back, Tatum's putting up maybe 40. But Hawks been a good defensive team since they promoted Nate McMillan. But I'll stick here. So this is who the Hawks are missing this game: Danilo Gallinari, Trae Young, John Collins, Chris Dunn, DeAndre Hunter, and Cam Reddish. That's a starting lineup. That's a starting lineup. And
I feel bad for Toronto. I didn't even know Trae was out.
Well, so for Toronto, they're missing their backcourt, Lowry and Van Vliet. But I mean, I've given up on Toronto making that play-in spot. Maybe they'll hit big in the draft. But
let's go Wizards, baby.
As far as here, only real thing I took away from. Did you catch any of it?
Not really.
It was a McDonald's themed game, and I didn't like it. The logos on the side were it was a Toronto home game, and there was McDonald's there, and then Trae was wearing a McDonald's All-American like a Letterman. Normally those look pretty good. It looked horrible, and then the color scheme was not very good. 2 red teams kind of trying to figure out how to do the color scheme. But yeah, other than that, not a great game to watch, but Clint Capella always kind of coming through. Moving on. On the flip side of injuries, we got a talented matchup with most talent in tow. Victor Oladipo excluded as the Suns get an impressive W against the Heat. Final 106-86. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, and Jay Crowder all shot below 30% here. But DeAndre Ayton's 19 and 13, coupled with the Heat's inability to score, helped the Suns prevail. Jimmy struggled and Bam looked small against young big man Ayton. Let me hear your thoughts.
So yeah, the second and fourth quarter performances by the Heat have me really, really nervous about what's going to happen to them in the postseason. Their offense has been just really underwhelming this whole season. They scored 16 and 14 in those quarters I mentioned respectively. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if this is like Spo's offense, or I don't know if they just have enough firepower, because I like them as a sneaky pick against a team like the Nets, but yeah, they have the defense to hinder them a bit, but they don't have the offense to keep up with them. And that goes for a lot of teams. That goes for even in a potential series against the Bucks. I know that they have the defense to potentially stop Milwaukee, but I don't know if they can score enough. And I mean, just looking at like their starting lineup, Nunn, Robinson, Ariza, Butler, Bam, I feel like that should be fine. But I don't know. I don't know if this is a scheme issue or if this is just a talent. I don't think it's a talent issue though. I think they have enough. So I want to hear your thoughts on that.
So that's a really good point you brought up, in the fact that like their defense is great. They can hit at the Nets, but you're not going to, you could keep the Nets to like 110 instead of 140, yeah. But you need to score 111 then. And even with what the Nets give you, you're going to get open shots. You're going to get easy layups. But you got to connect on those. And the Heat in their last, Knicks, good defensive team, scored 98. Pacers, middle of the road, scored 92. Then, yeah, lost to Phoenix today, 86. They beat Portland 107. These are very low-scoring games. The only game they really had a lot of points against were Golden State and Cleveland. And those are almost as bad as the Nets. So
Golden State's a good defensive team. I think they were down bodies that game, and they just have lapses defensively in certain games. But yeah, that's really the only team you could be like, okay, they scored against a decent defense. Well,
yeah, I really think that, they seem to have Milwaukee's number. So even first round, it would be them. But
I don't think this year. I don't think
against the Nets, I don't see it going. I'll give Jimmy 2 games because I love the guy, and he comes on the playoffs. But against the Nets, you could be as good on defense as you want, but in today's league, this is granted because for this game, I'm assuming. Let's see how they shot the 3 ball. Duncan Robinson 4 for 10. Kendrick Nunn 1 for 6. Dragic 0 for 7 from 3. Not a single 3-pointer was made from the bench, and that includes Goran Dragic, Tyler Hero, and Andre Iguodala. They need to score, and they're not taking what's given to them. And that Suns are a good defensive team. Don't get me wrong, but
it's been a trend. It's been a trend.
So yeah, it's just really tough to kind of rock with the Heat here. I think it's all going to depend on matchup wise, but yeah, as far as they're a great defensive team, but you got to be able to still score a little bit.
The silver lining with them is if they're lucky enough to where Philly was to knock off Brooklyn and they get past Milwaukee, maybe they could take Philly more because I think they match up better with them, and Philly's not like an offensive juggernaut, and I think Spo would run circles around Doc Rivers, and like I said, they have the personnel to match up with them. But no, in the Nets, I would say 5. Honestly, I'm at that point, and I know I'm like the optimist of the Miami Heat, but you can't go into a playoff series and you're scoring less than 100 in games.
Okay, well, so I just thought let's flip side it then. So they've got the great defense.
Yeah.
Let's say that. I know we said this a lot, but is it still if they start hitting, are they a championship contender just because they have the defense already set there? If Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero go back to the bubble wise, hitting the threes they're given to him, Duncan Robinson coming off those screen bang bang threes. Are you still scared of them when they get that jumper back, or do you think they just don't have enough firepower?
Yeah, I'm totally that defense if Depot, health permitted, if Oladipo's healthy, that defense would be a terror. They can switch everything. They can attack. They can blitz. They can play a wall on Milwaukee. They can do whatever they want. So yeah, I honestly need to look at their offensive rating. If they're bottom third, they would need to get a little bit, probably to top 10, top third, and then I'd be a lot more confident in them. But if they're bottom third, then no, they probably couldn't even get it up to top half, top 15. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I would say they have the lowest floor and not the highest. I think they have the biggest gap between their floor and their ceiling in the Eastern Conference, just because if they're hitting one game, you're probably not going to beat them unless you're the Sixers or one of those top teams. Enough on Miami. Anything to add for Phoenix? Like I said, they shot horribly and still put out this win. And I don't want to discredit them by saying the Heat didn't make any of their Phoenix are a good defensive team. I believe they're top 10. And they're in the more top 10 than bottom 10. But Cam Johnson and Cameron Payne, 29 off the bench. Torrey Craig, who was dropped by his guys, and over in Milwaukee, 14. What'd you see here?
It's criminal that Milwaukee's front office dropped them when they literally didn't have any backup point guards. But something's playing in my background.
Luckily, we can't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear it? Okay. Phoenix is just a complete, well-rounded team. I mean, they have everything that you would want in a playoff team that could go deep. They have the high IQ guard in Chris Paul. They have the combo scoring guard in Devin Booker. They have the wings that you can throw at other elite wings. And I've seen enough out of Ayton this year to be confident in him guarding on another center's matchup. So yeah, and they're well coached. They've definitely been, I mean, unless you're Josh Nowakowski, the overachieving team this season. So
Yeah.
With Denver suffering a big injury to their team, I think they're probably like the second most deadly. I don't know, because outside of the Lakers, they better than the Clippers. I know the Clippers handed it to them, but
the Clippers are. We'll get into that in Jamal Murray talk. I think he summed it up pretty well as far as how they played this game.
Okay.
I think main thing that we take away from this season is every person with a brain was like, DeAndre Ayton will benefit the most from Chris Paul coming here. And DeAndre Ayton has benefited the most from Chris Paul coming here. And I think the main thing is that he's benefited and Devin Booker didn't have to take a back seat. Chris Paul seamlessly fit, which no one thought he wasn't going to fit, but he's fit a lot better than I thought he would as far as immediate impact. Enough of that game. Game of the night was, as usual, the last one, the nightcap. Celtics took down the Blazers 116-115. They had a great third quarter and a Tatum 32-piece. For the Blazers, Melo was playing out of his mind off the bench, or at least it felt like it in real time. I was catching a lot of this game live, and he's just so fun to watch pull up on the break because he shoots it so fast. He kicks out his leg. This is a good time. Only finished the game with 25, though. It felt like 40 when I was watching it. Come on, George. Let me hear your thoughts.
Okay. I'm going to go through the Celtics quickly before I get to my main talking points about Portland. They've been damn impressive lately. They've won 7 of their last 10, and that really just rains on the backs of the two Jays. Jason Tatum has had an incredible stretch. He had his career high, youngest Celtic to ever hit 50 the other night, 32 in this game. Late game killer, hit the dagger. His
patented sidestep.
Patton sidestep 3. Jaylen Brown's been great. Kemba Walker on decent efficiency had 21, so they got a lot out of their big 3. And for what I give them for their roster, they're pretty competent. I really like what they're getting out of Robert Williams. He's been great for him, just like this energizer spark plug that kind of does it all. So I think, after the trade deadline, they're healthy now. Tatum, he's still suffering from COVID, but they're definitely on the rise. I think they're 5-6 seed. I don't see him leapfrogging into the top 4, but I want to get to Portland now. So
can I say my 2 cents about the Celtics then, and then we could just focus on Portland because this is a good win by the Celtics.
Please do.
I just want to say Robert Williams III has been giving them good minutes, but the main thing they're doing is rebounding by committee. It was 46-46 rebound battle here against Cantor and Nurkic, who Cantor sometimes just drops 20 boards for fun. So really good game here to keep that close. Tatum 9 boards, Kemba 8 boards, Robert Williams 7 boards, Tristan Thompson 8 boards. Like the rebounding by committee, I think that's the main big thing because the offense will be there, but playing defense and getting the rebounding going on offense is a main part. All right. Portland talk.
Sorry, you froze. Okay, so I saw a stat that was really alarming to me. Since LeBron's injury for the Lakers, the Blazers and the Lakers have the same record, 6-7 over the last 13 games. They've made up no ground since the Lakers have lost LeBron, already without Anthony Davis too in that stretch. I'm just watching this team, and it's just basically you try and keep it close. You go on runs, normal basketball, because basketball's a game of runs, and then here comes Dame in the fourth, and he comes through a lot of the time, but still with just how their roster is, sometimes they can't overcome what they're dealing with, and they've been running back the same team for the last few years, and even in the 2019 postseason, they didn't get a game on the KD-less Warriors. They were leading by double digits going into the second half in every one of those games, and they got swept. Fourth quarter, and they got swept. And they've just made no moves to move the needle. And I just look at their roster, and they don't have the wing defenders. They don't have. I just think they need to blow it up at the end of the season. And I know it might not be fair to Dame, but I mean Terry Stotts, he's been a good coach, but it's just the same old story with this team every postseason. So I want to hear your thoughts about this.
So, yeah, I sit on here every podcast and I go, they got to make this lineup change. They got to make this game plan change. And I mean, I had one tonight. I think they should put Melo in the starting lineup and bring Powell off the bench. I think Powell could better utilize that green light than Melo can. As far let me rephrase that. They can both utilize the green light, but Melo can fit in the starting lineup a little better as he did last year, and then keep Rocco there. The main problem this year has been their big man production. Cantor, he's played as well as he can with Nurkic out, but he gives up a lot on the defensive end as much as he gives on the rebounding side and the offensive end. Nurkic has been a disappointment, and it's not his fault. He's had a lot of injuries, and then Zach Collins still out with all those injuries. But I mean, yeah. At what point do you have to realize though, like it's Portland, like they're not a storied franchise. Oregon's okay with this Portland team, and I'm starting to
contending and getting in the playoffs.
I'm starting to think Dame might be too, because I mean the saint that guy is. I bet he puts this all on him. I bet he probably thinks like, man, this is a team good enough to win the championship. No, it's not. Not in the West. This team is not built to win a championship. As much as the little tinkering they do, getting Rocco for 2 first-rounders, and Rocco's been decent this season, but like he's not a needle mover. But I mean, as far as blowing up, do you mean more Terry Stotts? Do you mean CJ McCollum? Do you mean both?
I think unfortunately both. Okay, well, first off, they have no defensive identity, and that's important in the West. You look at all the top contenders; they have really good defenses, top defenses in the league, not even just the conference. And I was talking with Costa about this, so I know he's going to be listening and happy that I'm bringing this up, but they have like no future either. They have no young guys up and coming, maybe Simons. Okay, that's about it. They traded 2 firsts for Rocco, who, yeah, it's a great move to put yourself over the top, but not where you're like, oh shit, we have no defensive wings, we have no identity. Let's bring him in.
More potty mouth.
You've cussed this pod. I don't know why it's just me. And I mean, their bigs just haven't been performing. They're not good defense. They have no wings to throw at anyone. And, I look at the teams behind them. Dallas is only going to improve. Warriors will be back next year. Pelicans are going to improve. Spurs will probably be better. And I still like the Kings as long as they fire Luke Walton.
Okay. Don't say the Kings over Portland Trailblazers. Calm down.
I like them. No. I said I like them to be making noise as like a play-in team and competing, not jumping them. Okay. But I just want to say that teams behind them are going to get better. And
you want to know what the problem is, though? They've made decent moves. They won the Powell trade. I mean, not cap-wise, because they're not going to be able to keep them next year because they're paying all these guys too much. And then the Rocco trade, I mean, one of the top 3-and-D wings for 2 firsts. I mean, you got to do it if you're in win-now mode. The main thing, though, is you could fire Terry Stotts, but one, he's been Dame's coach his whole career, so I don't know if Dame will sign off on that. Last thing I want to do is make Damian Lillard upset with you, because that's maybe the hardest thing to do if you're the Portland organization. And then 2, this isn't a hoop doctors or anything, so we're not going to deep dive into it, but like, you're going to get pennies on the dollar for CJ McCollum, because he's going to go somewhere, and he's going to put up these same numbers, which is 23 and 7, and what do you want, a big man? What big man is on the market? Like,
you need a defensive wing or a defensive big. And I mean, I'm not going to say that Norman Powell would entirely replace what CJ does, because CJ has a bag. He is but he's a capable 20-point per game scorer. You have Melo there who still can put the ball in the basket. And I just feel like if you moved him to get a defensive guy, like a core defensive piece, it would help you out more in the West. But I guess that's all I'm going to harp on here. Because
I would have liked to know Josh's thoughts on that, because he's a big Portland guy and big CJ guy too.
We'll bring it up to him next pod. I'm sure there'll be more with Portland that annoys me, but that's it for now.
Well, that is it for the recap. Okay. Short and sweet like always. It's time for the halftime report. Halftime report for 2 reasons. Halfway through the show, and George is the half hooper, all the moving up the ranks. But I want to hear, you got 3 topics for us. I know the first one, and I'm sad already, but give us some details on Jamal Murray.
Probably the biggest shot to one of the up-and-coming contenders this season. I guess I shouldn't say up-and-coming, but after the Aaron Gordon move, they were looking like it. So he tore his ACL against the Warriors the other night. Full recovery, we won't know. Hopefully it's a full and quick one. But how does this affect their ceiling? Because I'm sure we still believe that they're going to be a playoff team. I don't see them falling to the play-in, especially with Portland's subpar play lately. So ceiling-wise, what does this do?
Ceiling-wise, it takes them out of my contenders bracket. I had them making the conference finals against either the Lakers or Clippers, just because of how the standings would come up, and just because of Aaron Gordon's recent play. But I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, Murray had a very, very, very slow start to the season. last 2 months, he's been putting up bubble Murray stats. Like he's been, I believe he's averaging 26 a game on efficient shooting. That's all you can ask for if you're Nikola Jokic and you need a co-star with him. He's been running the offense well. He's been taking games off here and there, just because that slow start season was kind of about a nagging injury. And you saw the difference in the Nuggets with Jamal Murray and the Nuggets without Jamal Murray. But, yeah, as far as, I mean, that's the ceiling. As far as what's going to happen, they're going to have to rely on guys they don't want to. Monte Morris, Will Barton, and Will Barton, a primary ball handler. One thing I could see is Aaron Gordon going back to his Orlando days and kind of running point forward, which they tried to do, and it didn't work that well. And they already have Jokic there, so it'll be kind of redundant, but they need Aaron Gordon and Mike Porter Jr. need to step up a lot, and I'm not comfortable hinging one of my championship contender picks on Michael Porter Jr. and and Aaron Gordon. And yeah, Jokic is going to still do Jokic things, but it kind of reminds me of the Sixers in the playoffs last year where Embiid did his thing, dropped 40 almost every game, and they got swept. This Nuggets team is not talented enough to survive without Jamal Murray, and speed recovery to Canada boy.
Yeah, I just mean, like you said, you need guys to step up, but I just don't know if anybody can step up and do the role of what Murray was. He was also a creator outside. He was the secondary creator outside of Jokic. Whenever Jokic was getting doubled, kick out to Murray. Murray does his thing and scores, hits those, turnaround middies that he was doing in the Game 6 and Game 7 against the Clippers comeback. And I mean, it was arguable that he, when hot, would be their most deadly player. I know when Jokic gets doubled or when Jokic is on fire, it's bad too. But
it's a good argument. He can drop 50 any night.
Yeah, and that X Factor playoff performance where you can just come in and absolutely light up a team. I mean, that's unvaluable. Like, you can't put a price on what he was doing, and it affects their ceiling the most because that's what made them the most dangerous. Thus, a high ceiling. And now it's just like they might be able to steal us. They can steal a series, but I mean, if they're playing the Lakers first round, I don't know.
I don't have them in my contenders bracket or in a playoff series above Utah, Phoenix, Clippers, or the Lakers. I have them fifth. Even Dallas, if they get on a roll, I could see Luka kind of tearing them apart.
I mean, because if they fall to 6, they'd currently be playing LA, and Jokic is a matchup nightmare for the Clippers. But Murray was also putting up 40 points in certain games.
That'd be an insane world where the Clippers go out in the first round after I'm so high on them this year. That'd be insane.
I can't see it, even though Jokic is a complete nightmare. But speedy recovery to Murray, and I'm sad because I thought Denver could potentially make it out the West.
for season.
It might be a full year, dude. It's like I mean, I know we're in the new medical age where you recover quick, but that's still an 8-9 months.
Is it the JJJ injury?
That was a meniscus. That one I have no idea why, because people can recover from that one so quickly. But no, it's different. Who just recently tore their ACL? Well, I know Isaac did, but that was a re-aggravation. Anyways, he might be out a year. Who knows? Who doesn't? Moving on, another Western Conference team. So, interesting quotes coming from Luka. He said, I don't understand the idea of the play-in tournament. You play 72 games to get to the playoffs. Then you maybe lose a few in a row, and then you're out of the playoffs. I don't see the point of that. So, I want to talk about this. Is he only complaining because of their current seeding?
Yeah, he's a little scared. I mean, I guarantee if he was the 9 spot or the 10 spot, he'd be like, let's bring it on.
He sees Steph putting up 50, and he sees the Pelicans are coming. He's like, oh shit, I don't want to play Zion.
His frustration if it was a 1 game, but the 7 and 8 seed do have an advantage against the 9 and 10 seed. If you lose 2 games to the Steph Curry and the Funky Bunch, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. You simply don't. If you lose 2 games to Zion Williamson, who looks like the big guy at your local YMCA, you don't belong in the playoffs.
No, so I believe I think it's 7 versus 8 and then 9 versus 10. And then whoever loses 7 through 8 plays the winner of 9 through 10. So they get 2 chances. They lose the first one, 7 through 8, who's the better seed, fine. You lose to Jaw goes off and JJJ comes back. But then you play like the crumbs of the loser tournament, basically, but they're not the loser tournament. You'd have to lose twice. And I mean, What's up?
So you sound confident, so I'll take your word for it if that's how the tournament works.
It's not 7 versus 10 and 8 versus 9. It's not.
You can't justify. Yeah, and I mean, just as taking Luka out of the equation, is the play-in tournament a good or bad idea? It's a fantastic idea because you got us talking about the Kings and the Pelicans, and they're the 11th and 12th seeds, and I mean we're gonna get Steph Curry versus Luka Doncic in a March Madness style tourney, or a variety of that matchup, or we got good teams in the playoffs, the play-in tournament this year as far as the West goes. The East is interesting, but we got real talented teams in the play-in spot for the West. So it's just good entertainment too.
Well, it's kind of comparable to March Madness because it almost has that winner go home single elimination vibe to it, even though the 7 through 8 isn't necessarily single elimination. But I've seen this on Twitter and I relate with it that the play-in tourney has literally saved the NBA season so far. If there was no play-in tournament, I don't think teams like the Pelicans and the Kings and the Spurs, maybe even the Warriors, I don't think they'd still be trying. I think they would shut it down and try and tank for a pick. But now with the improved draft odds where, they're trying to reduce tanking, and these teams look in the East, Raptors still have a chance, Wizards still have a chance. I don't think in a normal season they're still trying. A 12th seed trying this late? No way in hell are they doing that. So I think it's saved the season, and it gives incentive to teams be like, hey, you're right there. You just have to be a fringe top 10 seed in your conference, which isn't hard, and it incentivizes teams to be better and to not actively tank and suck. So
yeah, exactly. Instead of half the teams making the playoffs, 2/3 of the teams make the playoffs, so you stop mailing it in so early because you hit it on the nose. If you're the Warriors, you're like, it's a normal season. We're 10 seed. We'll pack it in and get a pick. Now they're thinking we keep this 10 seed. We got Steph Curry. He can win us a game.
You have You have the best shooter of all time, one of the most deadly players ever when he's hot. You can for sure steal 2 games.
You could exactly get in the playoffs. Yeah. So the play-in tournament, honestly, an A+. They made it. I mean, last year essentially to get Zion in the playoffs and didn't work. And now it's kind of doing the same thing this time. He's a game back, and they're doing it to get Zion in the playoffs because I would really like to see Memphis versus Pelicans in the playoffs just because Ja versus Zion. That'd be a lot of fun.
That's what we wanted last season, but no, the Dame just had in the bubble seeding games. But anyways, moving on. Last topic. KD got into another Twitter beef conversation, but I actually sided with him on this one. I liked what he did. So basically, undisputed host Shannon Sharpe, former NFL player, he put out a fake quote that came from probably an NBA Twitter troll. He read it on set. Basically, push leads to shove. They get into a Twitter argument about KD says, why would you go public? Why would you not talk to it up with me? And Shannon's like, oh, but I did. And he's like, yeah. And KD said, no, but you talked about it on live TV. You didn't come to me and talk about it. We can do it anytime. And Shannon's like, you know where to find me, yada, yada, yada. Shannon blocks KD. But anyways, that's not the main point I want to make here. What do you make of all these analysts trying to just push narratives, push these topics of just more trying to bait and get clicks instead of just discussing NBA action?
Well, I don't think Shannon was trying to push a narrative. I think he just got duped. He got trolled. And then the main thing, and I dabble in Undisputed. It's fun sometimes. It shows up with the goat mask and everything. It's a good show. But he really should have just admitted, "Hey, bro, sorry, I got trolled." But no, instead he was like, this. I agree with it, even if it's a troll. Da da da. But I mean, we got to remember this beef goes back like years. KD and Shannon. Like, if you remember, Shannon felt his own an apology last year because he was saying KD felt left out of the Warriors because he wasn't homegrown there, all that stuff. Da da da. And KD's firing back like, no, it's not like that. It's not like that. Da da da. 2 years later, he comes out with the Nets. I never felt, fully, engrossed in the Warriors culture. Never really accepted me. And, Shannon was right about that. So Shannon already has beef with KD. So this is kind of the second part of it. But yeah, rare W from KD as far as so I have this tweet right here from Shannon. So just some fan tweeted at him. He said, Unc, why you going to block KD? That's not gangsta. Sorry, I'm white. Shannon Sharpe responds, I'm not gangsta, but I'm not going back and forth with KD and lose my job either. I've had a disagreement with other athletes, people before. We handled it like adults and moved on. Adults. So I would like to hope that there's more to it than like maybe he didn't want to get in the whole Rappaport thing where like they're maybe KD Deando and they got in a little bit of a fight. He just blocked him before he lost his job. But yes, I think you make a good point as far as like media twisting things and everything. But I think this was kind of like a different thing. I think Shannon just messed up.
That's fair. Yeah, I got nothing else to say about that. It's just over the years, the NBA media has kind of gone down this slippery slope of less discourse about the NBA and more about headlines and narratives and all these other topics that don't relate to what's on the court. But anyways,
well, before we end this, I do want to bring I want to get your opinion on this who do you think is so Kyrie kind of went through a redemption arc in my opinion, just because I feel like he was kind of I still stand by like the whole Celtics thing. You like kind of quit on them, But as far as media, he was kind of painted as a villain to the media. And like just watching stuff now, like they're trying to bait him into stuff, and he's just not having it. Maybe that has something with him, like kind of finding his inner peace, kind of religion and stuff. Saging the locker room and all that stuff. But yeah, Kyrie's kind of gone through that. Do you think we'll see the same thing with KD, or is he just always going to be this defensive guy?
Relentless. He's always going to have that ego, and there's nothing wrong with it. I actually like these players fighting back because we've seen from another guy, LeBron, radio silence every time Skip Bayless puts out one of his funny tweets about LeBron and the Lakers. So I don't dislike it. I wonder though, is this going to incentivize these analysts and reporters to do more of this? Do they like the interactions? Is it good for ratings? Is it not?
Oh, of course it is. Yeah.
So
I'm surprised Undisputed didn't do a segment about this. I was looking to see his updated reaction. It just wasn't there. I was like, no way they didn't. No way.
Because, yeah, if they like it, then more of these guys are going to start saying BS and hoping these athletes tweet them publicly. Skip has tried it for 18 years, so I don't think there's much more he can do. But you can start going at other guys who maybe they could find as a new villain on Twitter.
For sure. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure doing the halftime report with you. I had to step in and talk a little bit more because Josh isn't here, but you did a great job. So now we're going to kind of go to the back end of this podcast. We teased it in the beginning, kind of a fun segment here, comparing current day contenders to contenders of previous years. This is going to be more of an open discussion because, there's not just one team that fits it like a glove. Some teams don't have a team where you can really put it there, and some teams have multiple teams where you're like this, and this. So I'm going to give you a few teams, and you're going to give me a team you kind of relate them to from the past.
So, yeah, I'm just going to describe my overall thought process before we get into what teams I picked. I basically just did, like, the player archetypes, the roles of the teams, and like the stars and how they played, and the roles the stars had in their teams versus the other contenders. I know you did it a little bit differently. You kind of went storyline and how, okay, this player missed a certain amount of time. This team went through this team did this, like made a trade or something. But both sides are valid. Obviously, good thought process. So we can start now.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not going to attack you and say my team's better.
Don't
like
gatekeep the teams.
Yeah, that's not how it is, but
You're going to gaslight me.
Oh my God, he's just saying indie buzzwords.
Cope.
But, so first team here, the Phoenix Suns.
Okay. I went with the 2017-2018 Toronto Raptors. So I did this because of the backcourt guard play. Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, little bit different. Chris Paul's definitely more of a floor raiser, high IQ guy, but they're both like do-it-all point guards, and you would want them in your backcourt, especially in the playoffs. You have combo scoring guards of DeMar and Booker. Booker's obviously a better shooter and probably a little bit better of an overall scorer. You have wing defenders. OG was there. Serge was there. And then you have Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder. And then the centers, JV and Ayton. But yeah. I kind of went through the whole lineup. This is probably one of my better ones, so I want to know your opinion, and then you can give me yours.
So I started with this one just because I thought it'd be a middle ground one, not a huge contender, not a team we hate. I'm really proud of this one, though. I went with the 95 Pacers. So I got Mark Jackson for Chris Paul.
Mark Jackson, okay.
I got Reggie for Devin Booker. I got that big guy. I think is Rick Smits for
the center.
Ayton.
Yeah. Rick Smits.
And then they just got the shooting's not there because it's the 90s, but they had a lot of guys that play defense there. And then obviously the coaching is kind of a wash. But this is one I didn't really go storyline. I kind of went, this kind of matches up. And good defense.
I like both of ours. Yeah.
I think we hit it. I think he did a pretty good job starting this off.
All right, let's get to the others.
All right, so the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay. I did the 97-98 Utah Jazz.
All right.
So Malone and Embiid are their two best players and the two best bigs of these teams. Stockton and Simmons, they kind of play similar games, and but Stockton obviously had a 3-ball and Simmons doesn't. But they're both the facilitators. They both
Joel Embiid has a 3-ball and Karl Malone doesn't. So it's a wash.
Byron Russell, Toby. I don't know why. I just felt like when I looked at the duos of both teams that they kind of just matched up well. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense explaining it, but that really was the first team to come to my mind right when you had said Philly. So I don't know. I can't explain it.
All right, so that's a solid one. I went with the 94 Knicks. Ewing, Embiid connection. John Starks and Ben Simmons are.
That's a good, I like yours.
So John Starks, I don't know whether to compare him to Ben Simmons because he runs the offense, or to compare him to Tobias Harris because that was second scoring punch. And then they had shooters for. You mean the 90s? They had Hubert Davis. Congrats on the promotion.
Yep.
And then they also had Ronaldo Blackman, who was kind of a sharpshooter back in the day.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, fun fact too, Doc Rivers was on this team, the 94 Knicks, and he coaches the Sixers now. So, I went with that one. Not one of my stronger ones, but
I like it more than mine.
Fun.
You have a lot more connections to each team.
All right, the Los Angeles Lakers.
Okay. So I watched this team that I compared it to, and the way they play is a little bit different. I compared it to the 09 Lakers.
Okay.
The duo of Kobe and Pau and LeBron and AD. I know they play a little bit different, just the type of dominant ball that they play. But I don't know. I kind of got vibes from them last season of like the Kobe Pau duo with LeBron and AD. So it's a little bit of a homer pick there, but that's just the feeling I get from them. But matching up wise, I don't know. I don't know that team. I don't think we weren't a great 3-point shooting team.
Yeah, but no one really was. I'll give you one thing for yours too. The versatility the Lakers had in 08, where they kind of finished the game with Lamar Odom and Powell at center, is kind of the same there because they had Bynum there, which is kind of like the Lakers Drummond this year. He was a good player. But like when winning time came, he slid to the bench, and we kind of ran with a different lineup. So the versatility is also
wing
there.
Defender Trevor Ariza.
I went with the 2014 Heat. I kind of struggled with this one.
Why.
But kind of another LeBron team, as you went with another Laker team. LeBron's sidekick, Dwayne Wade, missed a lot of time. His sidekick this year missed a lot of time. The one thing that doesn't go for me is LeBron played. Let me check how many games.
Was that not his back season, or was that 2015?
That was 20. This was his back season, yeah.
Okay, so he did miss 2 weeks, but obviously LeBron's going to miss a lot more this time around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he played 77 games in this season out of 82, and then Dwayne Wade played 54. It wasn't 2 weeks.
Anyways, yeah.
So yeah, a lot of time missed there, and then also just the sheer talent there. Not a lot of other comparisons there. Probably my weakest one was this one. But yeah, we're going to move on to another LA team, the Clippers. And I'll say this right now to the folks listening. We really couldn't pinpoint one. Maybe, we could, if I know Jay Sports will give us one, he'll think of one. But if anyone else listening, make sure to drop comments anywhere you listen to us. What are the Clippers finding of this season? I know you have a few, George, that you're not confident in, but you're going to bounce off.
I actually went your thought process route here. So I compared them to the first-year Heatles. Now, talent-wise and like roster-wise, there's not much of a connection here, but both these teams underwhelmed in the series that they lost in. Clippers blew a 3-1 lead. Heatles went out in 5 to Dallas. Mm-hmm. So that's why I went with there. Just they bring together this super. Not necessarily.
So are they the 2012 Heat then? After they lost, they both had embarrassing losses in the playoffs. So now they're the 2012 Heat.
Oh yeah, I was comparing the last season. Sure, then yeah, that's fine. Kind of a redemption year, and they weren't favored in their final series, and I don't think the Clippers would be favored in the final series. So yeah, let's do 2012. But they brought.
And they'll both be going up against Kevin Durant probably. So.
Well, yeah, maybe.
The comparisons don't stop.
So yeah, but just the underwhelming finishes that both these teams had is why I compared them.
Perfect. Was that the only one you had? Because I don't have one. I honestly couldn't. It hit midnight, and I was like, we gotta start recording.
I thought of the O2 Kings for a bit, but they had a lot better big man play than what the Clippers have, so I threw it out.
Clippers don't got a Vlade, you know.
No, I know, so I threw it out.
Okay. The Bucks.
This one's interesting. I have
an interesting answer too.
This one was a complete wild card. I don't even know if you're gonna like it. The 92-93 Phoenix Suns. I literally only did you say that too?
Yep. Because Big Chuck.
That's literally the mound round and rebound. That's the only reason why I did it.
And then Dan Margera is kind of like their Middleton.
Danny.
They had Lil KJ, who was kind of like their Drew Holiday, a defensive guard. It was the only one I could really think of.
Wow, look at us.
Wow. I mean, are we just gonna kind of gas each other up, or like, I mean, because I really couldn't think of another one, and then the Charles Barkley comparison kind of changed in the game for a guy that big, kind of Giannis-like. I don't think they ran Chuck at center too often, but maybe if you were doing a podcast in 94, you'd be begging them to do that because you do it with Giannis.
The 1994 version of me would be like, I don't know who their coach was. Please run him at the 5. But yeah, that's funny. We actually
coach
got
was
one.
Paul Westphal.
Oh, rest in peace, Paul. But yeah, that's funny. Wow, we got one. I didn't think we were gonna get one.
They also had a lot of good shooting for the time, just like the Bucks do. You know, they had Dan Margera, they had good old Danny Green. I mean Danny Ainge. But yeah, good stuff.
Let's do it.
All right, going to the Jazz. Now, I have compared them to the 2015 Hawks.
Am I the menace on this show?
Did you compare them to the 2015 Hawks? Oh my gosh. Okay. Well,
I don't need to explain. We've already.
Then I'll explain mine. The 2013 Pacers.
Ooh.
And
this was Danny Granger.
This was the one that made me want to do it because I was like, it fits really well. Defensive-oriented coach. Took him a few years to get going. Rudy Gobert, Roy Hibbert.
You're comparing Rudy, that 3-time D-pointer, Roy Hibbert, a 2-time All-Star.
He was an All-Star. They took the Heatles to 7. Paul George and Donovan Mitchell, George Hill, Mike Conley. It almost fits like a glove if you're really thinking about it. They have Lance Stevenson, their wild card, Jordan Clarkson. Like the list kind of goes on for that. This was one of my more proud Pacers ones. Teams. Okay. They're also both great defensively.
Yeah, I mean, my 2015 Hawks one is kind of just a meme, but everybody knows why that comparison's been thrown out there. So nothing.
Do you believe it? Do you believe the comparison? Do you?
I want to believe it.
I hate you.
Do I necessarily believe it? Probably not. But am I gonna say it for the memes? Hell yeah, I am.
All right, the Miami Heat.
Okay. This one might get a lot of flack, but I don't know if anyone's going to be listening an hour or two into this. I said the 04 Pistons.
Jesus Christ.
Because I think the defensive
I have them too.
No way!
Yeah.
I think they're I can't see it. I just think their defensive ceilings can be similar. And like I'm not comparing Bam to Ben Wallace, but I think he can play like him. Chauncey, Jimmy Butler, they were kind of just the do-it-all carry guy, and then Tayshaun could be like who do they have? Who else is their other wing defender? Like a Trevor Ariza or an Iggy, you know. They just I kind of just threw it out there and I kind of liked it. So
oh my god.
We are on the same brain wave.
I mean, yeah, you hit most of the points I was thinking. The Heat are tough because I mean, like we just talked about, are they really a contender? So it's tough to really like pinpoint them. Where
did anyone think the Pistons were going to win that year though?
Oh wait, I had the 05 Pistons, so I guess we differ a little bit there because 05 everyone was kind of ready for them and they were still good. But okay. Yeah. So oh my god. Well, let's see. That's 2 for 7. So let's see. All right, the Brooklyn Nets is what we're going to round out here, and I figured this will be the most interesting one, so I left it for the end. I have 3 here, so you give me yours.
You want to go first? You want to take this one?
I was going to give you my 3, and you tell me which one you believe the most.
Let's do that.
So I have the 95 Bulls. as far as so they all have a different storyline, right? Okay. So 95 Bulls storyline that matches up is do you have the 95 Bulls? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Okay.
I'm surprised because
So didn't play a lot of games together, but we're still favored going into the playoffs.
right,
MJ coming back that year.
Yeah.
So that's the one storyline.
Okay, that's okay.
The 2000 Lakers, as far as just how kind of stacked they were, they got a lot of guys that, kind of like Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge. They had Glenn Rice coming off the bench, who was a career 22 point per game scorer. They had obviously the talent there, and Kobe Shaq don't play like or have a similar style to Kyrie, KD, and Harden, but the talent's there. And then the 05 Suns, just because number one offense, dead last defense. Half the 09 Suns team is coaching the Nets right now.
True, Nash Namari on the
and D'Antoni.
Oh my God, I forgot.
So that, and then it was kind of those two things. So it's hard to pinpoint because you could go with like the 08.
I'm not saying the Bulls.
You could go with the 08 Celtics. You could go with the Heatles where they come together and they try and win immediately. But I didn't feel like I feel like these three kind of encapsulated what the Nets were if you could combine all the storylines.
So I'm going to go with your Lakers one, but I'm going to twist it a little bit. I put 03-04 Lakers as a secondary choice only because they added the Glove and Karl Malone, who were way out of their – I'm not going to say way out of their primes, but they were older. They weren't, in their physical peak primes.
They were ring chasing.
Guys like LMA, guys like Blake as well. And then, Kobe Shaq, the dynamic duo. Obviously, they have a trio. And I had another one. I said 17-18 Warriors light because listen, obviously the Warriors did have a big three, but it was different. Clay was a 3-and-D guy. They besides KD, they don't have a 3-and-D guy in that big three. And they also had a Draymond, which there is no Draymond archetype on the Nets unless you're a big believer in Nick Claxton, but not even close. So that's where I went with it. Out of your three, I would go with that Lakers one.
That Lakers one?
Oh yeah.
I kind of like the Lakers one too, but I something just didn't feel right about it. Maybe it's because
Shaq kind of just like gave out and wasn't in his,
Yeah.
Are you saying for my pick or your pick? Your Lakers
for your pick.
Yeah, because Shaq was kind of fat and lazy in that series and kind of just got locked down by Ben.
Was that the season that Shaq was kind of hurt and Kobe was going buck wild, or was that like when they're still? I think that was 02 actually. I think when Shaq played himself into shape because 04 Kobe was battling all that stuff.
Yeah, because I remember early in this season, a lot of people were tweeting like, "Man, if you guys were around, if Twitter was around for that 01-02 season, you guys would be losing your minds because they didn't try in the regular season. I don't even think they got a first seed. And their defensive numbers were like poop. Like nothing stats wise would have told you they would have finished off that three-peat.
I think for the Warriors when it's not bad, I would go 18-19 just because I didn't feel like they had a championship hangover in the second year because they're still trying to. KD had some vendetta against LeBron still.
That would have been better, honestly.
And they're also battling a little injuries there. But yeah, the Nets have a championship hangover without winning a championship, which is very fun to see.
Kind of like what the Clippers did last season.
Oh, who said that? All right, well, that was a little fun segment. Anyone listening? This is the one time I really hope people are listening because I want to see some stuff, drop some contenders, and who you compared them to years past. Which one were you most proud of? I was most proud of the Pride 95 Pacers one. I like that one a lot.
I like that one a lot. I'm gonna say the Suns one was probably my favorite because we got it too. It was dead on.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap this up with the look ahead. Don't know Josh's, so let's go with me and you. There's a few here, so you tell me. You go first.
Wednesday, first part of the ESPN doubleheader. Nets Sixers battle of the top two seeds in the East. I don't know if KD's going to play or Kyrie, but I'm still going to take it just because if they are playing, it's going to be a battle of the two top seeds in the East. And I just want to see how they defend Embiid after they couldn't defend Andre Drummond. So I'm hoping for like a 40-20 game for the Chaos.
So I'm going to cheat here and give Josh a look ahead because I have two games I want to see. So I think the game that just has to be a look ahead is the Mavericks and Grizzlies, 6:30 on Wednesday, second half of that ESPN doubleheader. 2 games apart in the standings. Maybe Grizzlies want that 7 seed, and I'm sure the Mavericks want that 7 seed as well instead of the 8 seed. Mine is so Bucks and Hawks are only 4 games apart in the standings.
Okay.
Bucks in their last 10, 4-6. A lot of that without Giannis, so even that. Atlanta 7-3 in their last 10. Maybe Atlanta is going to make one little push. This would be a good start to it, trying to get this W here. Do you think there's any validity that the Hawks can kind of get that 3rd seed?
Depending on the severity of Giannis's knee injury, because I know he's missed the past 5 games. I don't know if he's going to return for that game. I would hope so. I don't see it. I think the Bucks have enough to win enough games sans Giannis. So even if he's out for another extended amount of time, I still think they have enough of a gap to cover while he's gone.
Word up. All right. Well, as always, I think this is our longest pod ever, so congrats on that. 110. Yeah, he's dying over here, folks. Should have wore that little musty tank top. Let him
hydrate. Shut up.
But yeah, that's going to do it for tonight's episode. Thanks for watching or listening. If you like what you hear, make sure to follow us at THHoopers Instant Twitter. I don't know if George still posts on Twitter every episode, but
I've been lacking a little bit.
He's been lacking. Instagram, you'll always get hop in the comments, talk to Frankie the Ace, I guess. But yeah, George never called back without his phone, so get a response. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for being an OG, and as always, take